Welcome back, Mr. Badjie.
Thank you.
I hope you had a good break.
Yes, indeed.
Just to remind you that you're still under oath.
Noted.
We will proceed with where we left off prior to the break. You were telling us about the fact that after you left GTTI, you then went to the PIU headquarters.
That's right.
And this would have been around 8 a.m. in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
And when you arrived, you did not see any PIU officers apart from the 2 or 3 that were guarding the detainees.
That's right.
Apart from that, the entire place was deserted as though they had been deployed somewhere.
Yes.
Can you tell us what happened when you arrived at the place where the students were being detained?
When I arrived at the police intervention unit headquarters, I instructed the police officers I found there to release the students, which they did. And while that was going on, I heard a tear gas being thrown. That was once. Pow! But from where it was coming, I had no idea because it was far from us.
When you ordered for the release of the students, did you have an opportunity to enter the room where the students were being detained?
No, I did not enter the room. I was outside.
So you spoke to one of the officers there and ordered the release?
And ordered the release. And this was in the presence of Ibrahim Asila, then journalist, now Minister of Information and Communication Infrastructure.
And you were with other students as well who had left GTTI to go with you to the PIU headquarters?
That's right.
So is it fair to say that you weren't in a position to see the condition of the student leaders that were detained?
That's correct. I have not seen the condition, to be quite honest.
You mentioned tear gas. Did you actually see the tear gas smoke, or did you only hear?
I heard the noise, and that was once. After that, I did not hear anything again.
Did you observe anything else around the PIU area while you were there? PIU headquarters, sorry.
After that noise, to be quite honest, as far as I can recollect, I did not observe anything abnormal around the PIU there.
When you left the detention room, presumably to go towards the entrance exit, did you go with any of the student leaders?
At that point, I don't remember going with any of the students towards the exit or the entrance of the PIU.
Do you recall speaking to any of the students?
I don't even remember. It's a long time, 19 years now, but I don't remember speaking to any of the students at the PIU.
Did you hear any gunshots at that point?
The only thing I heard was the grenade. No, the
tear gas.
The tear gas. That was the only thing I heard of.
Because the Commission has received evidence from multiple witnesses that there was a lot of shooting going on around the PIU around that time.
At that time?
Yes.
While I was there?
Indeed.
For me, as far as I can recollect, there was no shooting there, other than the grenade, no, the tear gas I heard. And that was not within the vicinity of the PIU, it was far. That's what I can recollect.
So as far as you are concerned, no shooting was heard around the PIU premises?
That's correct, ma.
I'll tell you a bit about the testimonies that we've heard from witnesses.
Okay.
In relation to the questions I have just asked you. I'll start with Alhaji Estabo.
Okay.
What he had to say about your presence at the PIU was this. You spoke to them and you said that you knew that they were under the influence of the opposition. and that all opposition figures who were behind the students would be arrested and charged. Do you recall that?
I don't recall, as I told you earlier on, talking to any of the student leaders, not to talk about even, I've never mentioned anywhere about any political involvement in the student demonstration.
Let me go further. He then stated that as they were about to board the vehicle to GTTI, they could hear students chanting and then they heard gunshots. And then he told you, meaning the Secretary of State for Interior, to tell your men to stop firing. But you said that the order had already been given.
That's not a correct statement, Deputy Lead Counsel.
So you deny making any statement to the effect that the order had already been given?
I did not make any statement to that effect because from the PIU, I walked to Westfield.
And we will come to Westfield, but I'm still focused on what happened at the PIU.
Yeah.
Similarly, you deny having heard any gunshots while you were at the PIU premises.
That's correct.
Omar Juf similarly testified, and in his case, he said they heard shooting, and in particular, it was the head of the PIU at the time, Momodou Cisse, who was shooting a pistol in the air, and he told you to order your men to stop, and you did so. So both witnesses mentioning gunshots, mentioning a conversation with you, and asking you to order the men to stop shooting, albeit with different results.
Now, this is their version of the story. As I said, a long time has passed, 19 years. I cannot recall anything that happened. But the side that concerns Momodou Cisse, I think he has started testifying. Maybe if that question is put to him, he will be able to answer. The good thing I can note is that he said, I ordered Momodou Cisse, which personally I don't remember talking to Momodou Cisse, neither seeing him on the ground.
So to be clear, you do not recall seeing or speaking to Momodou Cisse on that day at all?
That's my submission.
Okay. We will still continue because there is a lot more in relation to those testimonies.
Mm-hmm.
At that point, Omar Juf also testified that you were aware of the meeting with the Vice President.
As I said, I was never informed of any meeting with the Vice President.
And in fact, the testimony is positive to the extent that you then offered your vehicle to take the student leaders to go and meet the Vice President. You deny that?
No, I cannot say, because I'm not aware, and I don't remember even offering my vehicle to take the student for a meeting. To be quite honest, I don't remember anybody informing me of a meeting with the Vice President concerning this student issue.
But even beyond that, you don't remember having heard gunshots, which we have heard from multiple witnesses around that time.
What I heard was a tear gas. That's all I had on that very day at that particular point.
So after you left the PIU premises, you said you went to Westfield. How did you go from the PIU premises to Westfield?
I walked to Westfield. I parked my car at the PIU headquarters.
Were you on your own or did you go with other people?
I was alone walking to Westfield, and along the way I can...
Just so we have a bit more clarity, what made you decide to move from the PIU premises to Westfield Junction?
Okay, the reason, I got information that a larger crowd was gathered at Westfield, and to inform them that the student leadership is being released, I thought it necessary to walk there and tell them exactly and give them the information, which I did, and I found on the ground former Chief of Defense Staff, retired Colonel Babukar Jatta.
So at this point, you were involved in what was happening underground, based on obviously the orders that you gave at, the order you gave at GTTI, the order you gave at the PIU headquarters, and then you were still continuing to Westfield Junction in order to again intervene in order to deal with the matter.
Absolutely. That was all geared towards diffusing the tension.
Do you recall how long it took you to walk from PIU premises to to Westfield Junction?
I think it took about 15 to 20 minutes.
So let's roughly say that by around 8:30 you were at Westfield Junction, correct?
Around to 9, not 8:30 exactly, maybe at some minutes to 9, yeah.
Indeed, because you spent some time at the PIU headquarters.
Yeah.
Up until this point in time, you told us that you did not have your mobile phone with you.
That's right.
Did you communicate with the IGP or any other member of the security force during that period?
On that very day, I did not communicate with the Inspector General of Police, nor any other member of the security forces.
Did you make any phone calls at the PIU headquarters?
I did not make any phone call at the PIU headquarters.
Okay, so you arrived at Westfield Junction at 8:45. Can you tell us what happened there?
When I arrived there, I met retired Colonel Babukar Jatta, the former Chief of Defense Staff, and he informed the students that, hold on, the minister has an information to share with you. That's how I addressed them and told them that their leaders are now released. And that was a welcome news. They all chanted. And from there, we were told again that another group of students were gathering around LK school, and it will be good also to inform that group that this development had happened.
So same questions about what happened at Westfield Junction. Did you at any point hear gunshots?
At Westfield, while I was there, as far as I can recollect, Westfield was very peaceful and calm.
Did you see any security forces present at Westfield?
To me, what I can recollect, to be quite honest, I have not seen presence of security officers at Westfield at that time. From what I can recollect, it's been a long time now, but this is what my memory serves me anyway.
You mentioned earlier about PIU officers forcefully pushing the students back at GTTI. Did you at any point between GTTI, PIU headquarters, and Westfield Junction, do you recall at any point seeing any students being beaten by members of the security forces?
No, I did not see any of them being beaten.
So as far as you were concerned, around some minutes to 9 at Westfield Junction, it was calm?
Yes, from what I can remember.
What happened after you left Westfield Junction?
After I left Westfield, I went with Babukar Jatta to Latrikunda, and when we arrived, he asked the student to be listening, and when I started talking and telling them that about the release of their leaders, I saw a group of boys who joined the group. They were not in uniform, and one of them started throwing stones. I paused. I did not continue talking. After a few minutes, a second one threw stones again. At this stage, I saw the orderly of Babukar Jatta coming towards me as if he was trying to protect me. I told him, I'm fine, don't worry about me. And that's how I left that place, because to me, I don't want to be in a place where violence will be erupted, you know.
At any point between GTTI, PIU headquarters, Westfield, and Latrikunda, where you ended up, did you at any point see any students or any members of the public with weapons?
No, not at all.
And in fact, you've said you did not hear any shooting at all during that period.
When I was at Latrikunda Junction, to be quite honest, I have not heard any shooting.
So you told us because of the stones being thrown at yourself and Babukar Jatta, you chose to leave the area. I assume Babukar Jatta remained?
Yeah, he remained.
Bearing that situation in mind, meaning stones were being thrown, Babukar Jatta was still there, a member of the security force, what measures, if any, did you take in order to address that situation?
I did not take any measures, Deputy Lead Counsel.
You had intervened up until that point. Why didn't you take any measures? Did you try to contact anyone? Did you try to speak to anyone in the security force?
No, I did not speak to anyone, and I did not intervene because the situation was different.
Please tell us what you mean by that.
Now, at GTTI, I found a very peaceful and calm crowd. At the Latrikunda, the crowd at the beginning was peaceful, but was infiltrated by some hostile elements that changes the whole scenario.
Wasn't that more reason to actually act and take some kind of measure? Meaning if you couldn't take a measure yourself directly, you were the Minister of Interior, you were in charge of internal security, there was an internal security matter taking place. Why didn't you take any kind of measure? You have an entire apparatus under you.
Yes, that's true, Ma. I did not take any measure because my analysis of the situation is that had I requested for any deployment of the police at that point, it would have been seen as provocative. And that will create more havoc than good.
Now, short of asking for reinforcements, did you relay the information to anyone in the security force in order for them to consider what the best measure would have been if it wasn't about deploying forces at that particular time?
I did not relay any such information to any of the security apparatus.
Did you feel that you had a responsibility to do something about that situation, considering what was happening?
At that point, it was not my impression that I had anything to do there.
Well, you intervened up until that point, and then you told us that hostile elements joined that group,
yes,
the group of students. Why was it that at the point where things deteriorated, that's when you felt that you did not have any other responsibilities?
Exactly.
That's what I'm trying to understand.
It is correct. Yeah, you are right in not understanding it, but the situation is not the same. Because at Latrikunda, there was no presence of security forces. It was myself, CDS Babukar Jatta, and his orderly. And the crowd at the beginning was peaceful, but infiltrated by hostile elements. I thought at that point, with the presence of Babukar Jatta, he would have been in a position to solve the problem rather than asking for redeployment of security. That would have worsened the situation.
But how was Babukar Jatta expected to solve the problem, considering that he was being thrown stones at? And more importantly, Babukar Jatta is from the army. This was an internal matter, internal security, squarely under your portfolio.
Absolutely. He was from the army. This is an internal matter under my portfolio. But we went there with the sole aim of conveying a good message to the students, all geared towards diffusing the situation. Unfortunately, they were infiltrated by some elements who had a different agenda. Yes, internal affairs are under the portfolio of the Ministry of Interior, but also the President, under the Constitution, Section 188, has the mandate to deploy the army as well on the ground.
But at this point, we're talking about a situation where protesters were throwing stones at yourself, the Minister of Interior, as well as the Army commander at the time. We're not at the point of talking about getting soldiers.
Yeah, that's right.
So, in fact, the President's authority does not arise. At this point, it's really about your own portfolio. What I'm trying to get at is, why didn't you take any kind of measure, at a minimum, to even report what was happening to the rest of either the police force or something? It wasn't about you taking measures on your own to quell the situation. It wasn't necessarily that you jump and then ask for reinforcement, but there's some other measures that could have been taken, but you did nothing.
Yes, Council.
Why?
Deputy Lead Council, you are right. And I take responsibility for not taking any measure at that point for the reasons I gave you.
So what happened after you left Latrikunda? Where did you go next?
After I left Latrikunda, I walked back again. This time was going through Westfield. When I arrived at Westfield, I saw in the crowd Honorables Halifa Saleh and Sidi Ajata. They were coming from Churchistown. The situation on the ground was very peaceful. And to me, at that point, I said to myself, Alhamdulillah, I was able to diffuse the tension, and for me, mission was accomplished. Little did I know that upon arriving at the PIU, I found out that my vehicle was smashed, the windscreen broken, and there was no police present, neither at the PIU, around the Red Cross and the GTTI. The whole place was empty.
You mentioned that you met Honorable Halifa Saleh as well as Honorable Sidi Ajata. Did you have any conversations with them at
No,
that
I did not have any conversation with them. I just saw them and we passed each other.
Were you still walking at this point?
I was walking. No.
That's quite a walk from everything you've explained so far.
Yes, I was walking.
So walking from PIU premises to Westfield Junction, from Westfield going all the way to Latrikunda, from Latrikunda going back to Westfield, and then back to the PIU headquarters.
That's right.
Do you recall around what time you arrived at the PIU headquarters?
At the PIU, that would have been around 10:30, I think. 10:30 going to 11, maybe.
And I'm still trying to understand your journey. Throughout that period, you were in the vicinity or the area where shooting was taking place, where students were being beaten, where students were being chased, but your testimony is that at no point did you witness any of that whatsoever.
That's what I can recollect.
That seems a little bit odd considering the testimonies that we've heard from multiple witnesses. But you've now said that when you arrived at the PIU headquarters, you found your vehicle had been smashed, the windscreen had been smashed. Tell us what else you observed at the PIU headquarters.
As I said, I did not find anybody there, and the whole area was deserted somehow. I had to find my way to Banjul.
How did you find your way to Banjul?
I think I was given a lift by somebody. I don't remember exactly who gave me a lift to Banjul.
Do you recall being in the same vehicle as either Babukar Jatta or some other members of the security force going to Banjul?
As I said, it's a long time. I don't remember exactly who. It may be possible, but to me, today, I cannot tell for sure that I was in the vehicle of Mr. So heading to Banjul.
But you must remember something. You left the Lachikunda area. You left Babka Jata there. You went all the way to the PIU premises. Couldn't use your vehicle, and so you found another means of transport.
Yes.
Do you recall who was in that vehicle, or how many people were in that vehicle?
Which vehicle, ma'am?
The one that took you to Banjul.
That's what I'm saying.
I want clarity on that. What exactly do you recall about the journey, or who took you to Banjul, or how many people were in the vehicle?
Me, what I can recall is that I was taken by maybe the police garage. They gave me a vehicle to take me to Banjul. That's what I can recall, as far as I remember.
So when you arrived in Banjul, can you tell us roughly around what time this would have been? Are we talking about 11 a.m.?
Around 11 a.m., exactly, ma'am.
Can you tell us what you did when you arrived in Banjul?
When I arrived in Banjul, I went straight to my office, and I sat there and started treating the files I found on my desk.
Sorry, you went to your office in Banjul, knowing what was happening in the country, and you continued your work business as usual?
Yes.
Did you at any point speak to the IGP or any members of the security service that day?
I did not speak to the IGP that day, nor any other member of the security.
Did you speak to any members of the cabinet?
I don't remember speaking to any member of the cabinet.
Did you speak to anyone about the demonstrations and the situation in the country at the time?
No, as far as I can recollect.
I'm finding this difficult to understand because of your portfolio at the time, considering your position, Minister of Interior, again, having the police under your ministry, having the IGP who reports to you directly. There is a situation in the country, a situation that, as far as you could tell, was an internal security issue, but you did nothing when you got to your office. Why?
That's true. As the Serer saying goes, kauga ona tiktahun.
Please interpret that for us.
All of ne logis daratach.
And for those who speak English
I
only?
did not speak to any of those ones because I was expecting the Inspector General of Police to submit or come to my office and brief me about the situation. That never happened.
And when that did not happen, did you try to contact the Inspector General of Police? Did you request that he submit a report to you or explain what was happening?
I did not request any report from the Inspector General of Police simply because from my own observation it's very unusual that the IG behaves that way. And as the French saying goes, chat échaudé craint l'eau froide. Once beaten, twice shy. I was detained for 640 days without being told of what offense I have committed. I was released a week after an incident happened in Farafenye. The NIA came for me and took me to their headquarters from 8 to 7:30 p.m. because the information they got was that I was the one leading the operations in Farafenye. Kundo bil rey sa maam soo gisee lu ñuul daw.
Can you please interpret that? Roughly.
Because of all this serious situation happened. Students were killed by the defense and security forces. Some were injured and maimed. The least I would have expected from the Inspector General of Police and his management is when I arrived in Banjul to come to my office and give me a briefing. Because that briefing would have been very important for me in case the National Assembly or Cabinet wanted briefing about the situation. That never happens. It seems they knew something that even myself I was not aware of.
What happened to you, Mr. Badjie, was a violation of your rights, and that's terrible, and it shouldn't have happened. In this instance, you had a responsibility, and your responsibility was to deal with the internal security matters of the country. You took no action. You did not request reports. It's one thing to expect people to report to you as the normal course of events, but if those reports are not forthcoming, surely you believe you have an obligation to do something, to take steps to find out what is actually going on.
That's correct, Deputy Lead Counsel.
From what you've explained, and correct me if I'm wrong, you said once beaten, twice shy. So was it because of what happened to you in the past that you feared asking questions or taking measures at that point in time, even though you had an obligation to do so?
That's correct, Deputy Lead Counsel.
What do you have to say about that now?
I mean, it's regrettable. I should have done it. I did not do it. I take responsibility.
And in fact, to make it's even more serious, because at some point you received information that students were killed, and students, were killed by the defense and security forces, from what you've just said. When did you receive that information?
That was in Banjul when I was in my office.
Who provided you with that information?
From different sources.
Would those be official sources, or are you just talking about the information that was circulating generally?
Exactly, the information that was circulating generally, because the police did not provide any such information to me.
So this must have been around after 11 a.m. when you arrived in Banjul. Do you recall around what time you received this information?
I received it a few minutes after my arrival in Banjul.
And at that point, the information you had received was that it was members of the defense and security forces who had shot at students.
That's right.
And again, throughout the whole day, you did not take any action, you did not receive any information, correct?
Because the information I got, after that happened, it seems the whole thing, the people disappeared and nobody was in KMC.
You were in Banjul at the time, right? When you say the people disappeared and no one was in KMC, what do you mean by that?
What I mean, the demonstrators were no longer in the street. Everybody went into hiding, and the victims and the injured were taken to the Royal Victoria Hospital.
Well, you told us the information about the shooting was something you received after 11 a.m. When did you find out that there were no longer any people outside demonstrating?
Around the same time, I got news from various sources that there was nobody around there.
But the testimonies we've heard is that the demonstrations were still going on, shooting was still happening at that time, and people were still being injured, and people were still dying at that time.
Really? That's news to me. That's news to me, to be quite honest.
So what you were informed of was that people who had been injured had been taken to the hospital. Is that correct?
Right.
Throughout the course of that day, did you meet any member of the cabinet?
I don't remember meeting any member of the cabinet that day.
Do you recall being in any meetings about the demonstrations on that day?
I don't remember attending any meeting that very day.
Wasn't that just odd?
Yes, it can be. It's very odd, but I can't recollect because it's 19 years today.
But it's such an important incident, and that would have been an important meeting because it would have been a meeting about the shootings and the deaths that occurred. That's not a regular occurrence in the Gambia as far as knowing that information publicly at the time.
You are right, Deputy Lead Counsel. It's very unusual and upward, yes.
And in fact, what I'm suggesting is that if there was such a meeting, surely you would have remembered.
Absolutely.
So what you're saying is that you did not participate in any such meeting?
As far as I can recollect, I don't remember having a meeting on that day.
What about the day after?
The day after, I can't remember. I can't remember whether there was a meeting. I'm not quite sure because it's a long time, to be quite honest.
During the course of that week, meaning the week when the demonstrations occurred, do you recall at any point speaking to either the president of the country at the time or the vice president of the country?
During the period?
Yes, that week.
That week? No, the president, I don't remember talking to him.
Not on the telephone and not in any meetings subsequently about the April 10 and 11 demonstration?
Not at all, not at all.
If in a situation like that, where an internal security matter has arisen to the point where the vice president and the president are involved, if any information is to be channeled to the police force, meaning to the IGP, wouldn't that information have been channeled through you, or wouldn't you have been in the picture by virtue of your role?
Under normal circumstances, yes, but that never happened, as far as I can remember.
That you did not communicate with any of the people I've mentioned?
Because those are high-ranking officials of this country. You are talking of the president and the vice president. And when a minister should talk to the president or the vice president, he should have something to tell them. And I did not receive any briefing from the police, so I had nothing to tell them.
Well, in such situations as well, if the president or the vice president wants to have more information, they can summon you in order to come and answer questions or in order to provide them with information.
That's correct.
And it is only at that point that they would know that from what you've said, you had no information to provide.
That's correct. And if
Did that happen?
If no, I don't remember that happening, because if that happened, I would have been there with the Inspector General of Police.
And from what you've said, you don't recall communicating or having meetings with the Inspector General of Police that week?
No, that day I did not communicate with the Inspector General of Police at all.
That week, did you conduct any visits in relation to the April 10 and 11th incident?
Now, visit maybe to see the extent of the damage in our various stations that were affected.
Maybe, or you recall actually doing that?
I say maybe because I'm not quite sure.
You don't recall if you went out to look at the damage that was caused during the April 10 and 11, 2000 incident? Such a unique incident that happened in the history of our country.
Yeah.
You don't recall if you went out to look at the damage?
Yeah. I don't remember exactly, to be quite honest.
Do you recall, if at all, you went to the hospital, for instance, to see any of the people who were injured or wounded?
No, to be quite honest, I have not been to the hospital.
Why?
Why? Because the state functions on protocol, and if such a serious incident happens, the government should work in a concerted and coordinated effort. So visits to victims at the hospital as a result of shooting incident that happened, a minister cannot take an initiative to do that alone without any authority from the echelon.
So essentially you're saying that you did not attend you did not go to the hospital even with any higher ranking member of the government?
If any higher member of the government visits the victims at the hospital, the protocol is you should invite some other minister. That is their discretion. They are not obliged to. But I don't remember being invited for such a visit.
And again, in relation to the April 10 and 11 incident, after the incident, do you recall if at any point in time, you received any kind of briefings about what happened, either from the Inspector General of Police, either from any member of the police force? Did you receive any information whatsoever about the events of that day?
Up to date, I have not received any information about the events of April 10-11. No briefing at all.
So from what you're saying, apart from what you observed on that particular day, the information you've provided to this commission, you would have no basis to talk about in detail what occurred that day because you simply did not receive that information.
That's correct, Deputy Lead Counsel.
Do you recall if after the incident you made any statements to the press about the events of April 10 and 11?
Yes, I remember making a statement in which I said the shooting came from the crowd. And after a few days...
Just let's pause and discuss that.
Yes.
Why did you make a statement saying that the shooting came from the crowd? From what you've told us, you would have no basis to make that statement.
Yes.
Why did you make the statement in the first place?
I made it because that was the impression I had.
From who? Or from where? Or from what?
From police sources.
You've told us that you did not receive any kind of official information or communication about April 10 and 11. So what kind of sources are you talking about?
Yes, I did not receive any such information from the Inspector General of Police.
I asked you more broadly about generally, did you receive that kind of information from either the Inspector General of Police or any other member of the police force or from anybody?
I did mention, even in my statement, that the information I was receiving is from junior police officers who from time to time will come to the office. So it was based on that I made that statement, not knowing exactly what the reality was.
But let's focus on that. You made a statement in your official capacity as the Minister of Interior to the Gambian public.
That's right.
To provide them with information. It should be credible information based on something that you know about the events.
That's true.
You're telling us that you did not receive official communication from either the IGP or any official report, but you then made a statement to the Gambian public based on information that you got from sources, junior ranking officers. Why did you do that?
Yeah, it was a lapse on my side, and I accept the the unprofessional way it was done.
But beyond that, the question is, why did you do it?
I did it because I felt there was a need to communicate. Maybe there was a wrong communication I used. But after, I rectified it.
Indeed, but from what you've said to us, but the problem is making the statement in the first place. And I know you've accepted that what you did was wrong, but I'm still trying to understand why you did it.
To be quite honest, I think I will just accept and say it was wrong, I did it. But why I did it, I don't know, to be quite honest. It's wrong, I accept it.
Were you told to do that?
No, I was not told to do it.
So you decided to do it of your own accord?
That's right, Ma.
I'll leave it at that. You said after you gave that statement, and then you realized that you made an error. What led you to make that realization?
What led me to realize that was the visit of late Dr. Cisse, who came to my office and told me, be careful of what you say. The information we are having at the hospital is that these students died as a result of gunshots. That's one. And two, the former police advisor, Tamsir Jase, also came to my office and said, "Sir, I have good news for you. I viewed the video of the shooting, but I did not see any police presence." To me, it was a relief. And based on those two information, I decided to grant interview to Jennifer Nyang of GRTS.
Well, just to clarify, you said your initial statement was a press statement. Was that a written statement that was read out, or what was the form of the press statement?
No, it was not a written statement. It was like I'm talking now, you know.
Can you tell us the context in which you made that statement? Did you go on TV? Did you go on radio to make that initial statement?
That initial statement, I think, no, I did not go on TV. Maybe they found me in my office, or I don't remember exactly, yeah.
But do you recall which news organization you spoke to?
GRTS.
GRTS. And do you remember who you spoke to at the time when you made that statement?
Yeah, no, I don't remember, to be quite honest. The only one I remember is the interview that I granted to Jennifer Nyang to correct my earlier version.
And was that the only interview that you had with Jaina Banyang regarding April 10 and 11?
That's correct, as far as I can remember.
And that was on GRTS?
Exactly.
We have a copy of that, a video of that interview. So I will play some extracts, and then get you to comment on the content.
Okay.
Can I ask the OB van to play the video, starting with what is now the second extract? Can you turn up the volume and start it again? We're unable to hear any sound from the video. Sorry, OB Van, we can't hear the audio clearly.
But let us abide by the law. Forward your application to me. I will
can we play the extract? Not this one, but the one after this one.
They kept on their feet.
So the second extract.
Arrows that will never kill anybody. It can only burn life. they did not comply with the Inspector General. Those were the things we used. We realized also my security personnel on Monday during the weekend. Okay, now the council executive.
Can you just pause for a second? We're having difficulty hearing the audio, but additionally, I don't believe you're playing the right extract. Can you play the next extract? So the second extract, can you start with that? Mr. Chairman, just some information for the commissioners. This entire interview is about 30 minutes long, or 27 minutes, if I'm not mistaken. And so we can only play extracts of it. However, the entire video will be exhibited, and then the commissioners can also refer to it. But we just want to play the relevant extracts where Mr. Badjie talks about the issue of the bullets and the shooting, and then we will hear another 2 extracts, and that's it. So,
noted. Just wanted to say noted on that. Thank you.
So, Obi Van, can we please play the second extract?
We were hearing were exercise bullets, blancos that will never.
We've lost the sound.
Kill anybody, it can only burn, life. Those were the things we used. We realized also my security personnel.
When did you start using it?
The blank informed that very Monday. Their order stood
at what point during this?
And as a result, they appealed. No, the blancos they wanted when the students started throwing stones and to disperse there the executive. Time our officers used the vice president and come back to give the feedback. And that all of them.
Obi Van, it seems as if the video is playing, but we can hear the same video as well in the background. So we're hearing two separate voices, so it's overlapping and we can't hear it. Please play it again with just one.
The firing you were hearing were exercise bullets, blancos that will never kill anybody. It can only burn, life. Those were the things we used. We realized also my security personnel.
When did you start using it?
The blancos? Yes. That very Monday.
No, at what point during the meeting with the students?
No, the blancos were used when the students started throwing stones, and to disperse them, that's the time our officers used both the tear gas and the blancos, just to frighten them. And that all of them, they realized. So this is just to tell you that there was no live ammunition we used, because we knew that these are people who are our sisters and our brothers. So we definitely should not be seen in a civilized society like the Gambia to be shooting at people like that. It's not the way we are trained, and we are very mindful of people's life and properties which we are entrusted to protect at all means. But again, they were throwing stones at our people. Now, imagine, let me tell you, just to prove you that there was no live ammunition. Would you believe a security personnel with his rifle, knowing fully well that he has a live ammunition, and if I shoot at somebody, I will kill him, would that person run? He will never run. Running means they know that, at least we should not be harming these students, and now we should run to save our lives. This shows you that there was no live ammunition.
Where did the live bullets come from then? And
the situation as it was does not warrant for our people to go with live ammunition, because we are not dealing with rebels. We are not dealing with an enemy force that is invading the Gambia. Intelligence father told me that in that crowd, not only students were there, but we have other people who have ulterior motives, and some of those people were armed. That's the time those people started firing gunshots. And during that firing, the pandemonium and everything, some people got wounded.
Where did they get the arms from?
That we are yet investigating, and to know exactly where they get that ammunition from.
Honorable Secretary of State, most parents we spoke to yesterday we're concerned about the students and, you know, the children who are detained. What is going to happen next? I mean, what's going to happen to those detained?
Well, General, you know, the Gambia is a country that respects the rule of law. I told you earlier on that all those people who were detained for one way or the other, it was during that pandemonium, the whole commotion about us. And since Monday, our services were engaged, busy, you know, scrutinizing all those people. We have some juveniles among them, that goes without saying. But you'll find out that most of those people were innocent. They just found themselves in the fait accompli. And as a result, during that process, those who have no case to answer will be released forthwith. Those who actually have something to answer, we will prepare the charge and forward it to the Attorney General's chambers for advice. And that is on the process already. We will soon start releasing those who have nothing absolutely to answer.
Honorable Secretary, if I can take you back a little, it would seem as if you were saying it was not the security forces that were opening fire on the students. Did I get that right?
Yes, exactly. As far as I know, it was not the security forces because they were only using blankos and there was no instruction given to them to use live ammunition to anybody that particular Monday here in KMC area.
And you were saying that the live ammunition that was being used was definitely not that of the security forces?
Not at all, because what the intelligence told me is that we have some armed personnel, some armed people inside the crowd who were using it, and we are still pursuing our investigation to know where they get those things from.
Mr. Badjie, were you able to hear and understand that interview?
Yes, I did.
Do you now recall the content of the interview?
That's right.
This was the interview that you said you granted. Which was about how the students were killed. Mm-hmm. In this extract, what we have heard is you saying that the police officers or the security forces used blankos. Mm-hmm. And you made a categorical statement stating that they did not use live ammunition. Mm-hmm. You already told us that by after 11 a.m. on Monday morning, you already heard information, general information, that the students were killed by the defense forces. You also told us that you did not receive any reports, detailed information telling you what happened on that day. What do you have to say to the statement that you've just heard yourself say?
Yes, this statement is my statement, that's correct. And I remember, as I told you, when the police advisor came to my office, what he told me is he saw a video of the shooting incident but did not see any police present. That warranted me to say what I said.
But you had not seen the video.
I have not seen it, to be quite honest.
You did not see any reports about what happened. But you went on to again make a statement that was absolving the security forces of responsibility and essentially laying the blame elsewhere, which is on the side of the protesters. This is what you said was the interview that was meant to correct a previous statement that you made.
That's right.
But in actual fact, in this interview, you repeat what you said before, and you still stick to the same lines, which is the security forces did not fire live ammunition. The shooting came from the side of the protesters. Why did you do that?
Yes, I was misled, I can say. And I apologize for not stating the right things.
But prior to you seeing this video, the impression you gave was that you made a statement basically blaming the security. Well, you made a statement that you wanted to correct. This video was meant to correct a statement you made earlier, which was misleading. But in actual fact, this interview itself is furthermore misleading. Isn't that the case?
Yes, it is, and I really regret it, and I apologize for that.
What do you have to say to the victims and families who were injured and who died as a result of the shooting by security forces, especially considering your role at the time and the statements that you have made to the public?
To the victims and their families, I will say this was a regrettable incident, and I really sympathize for all the pains you've been through all these years. And to those who lost their lives, we still continue to pray for Allah to grant them eternal rest in Jannah. To the families, all our apologies on behalf of the security forces for what happened. It should not have been, and we deeply regretted it. And we apologize from the bottom of our heart, to be quite honest.
And what about your own responsibility?
My own responsibility for the statement I made. I say I accept it, and it was wrong and unprofessional from an official authority. I was misled. I believe in that person. Unfortunately, it turned out to be different.
There are further extracts in the video, but I notice we don't have much time. So instead, Mr. Chairman, I will ask that the video be admitted into evidence as Exhibit 0085, and the commissioners will be able to review the entire interview in context in order to hear everything that the witness had to say on the issue of April 10 and 11th.
Request granted.
Mr. Witness, I have a couple of other exhibits that I would like to bring to your attention. As I mentioned, we have very limited time, but one exhibit would be the Commission of Inquiry's report from August 2000, and this is Exhibit 0083. I had shown you a copy of it. Yesterday, and it was a summary of your testimony before that commission, the April 10 and 11 commission in 2000. So a summary of your testimony, as well as the findings of the commission in relation to your actions. So I will show you the report again, and then I will quickly read a couple of extracts and get your comment on the content.
Yes, I see is the report of the Commission of Inquiry.
Do you recall testifying before that commission?
Yes, I recall testifying before that commission.
And after the commission concluded its inquiry, did you have an opportunity to read the report prior to yesterday when I showed it to you?
Prior to yesterday, I never saw this report. It's only today I'm seeing it, Deputy Lead Counsel.
So I will read from page 19 of Exhibit 0083. I'll start with a summary of your testimony before that commission. And this is what the commission had to say. The Secretary of State for the Interior, Ousman Badjie, testified as witness number 15 and narrated how he stopped by GTTI as he was on his way to work. He saw a group of students near GTTI, and with the intelligence report at the back of his mind, he got off his vehicle and walked to the security forces and asked them to stop chasing the students. The security stopped his students, who said that they had been stopped by a student and asked to come down from the buses. He calmed them down and went to the GTTI with them. There they found a bigger group, and he went to PIU with some student leaders to help get their leaders released. Those were released, and as they came out of the PIU, they saw some students running. Tear gas smoke was everywhere. The witness asked Omar Diouf and others to come down from a vehicle, taking them to Banjul for the meeting with the vice president, for them to help calm the students. They had tried, but to no avail. As he was walking towards Westfield, he met the chief of staff around Ousman. He walked to Westfield, where he and others addressed students from Churchill's Town End, and later he had learned that there was another group at Bakhorte petrol station. He had gone with the Armed Forces Chief of Staff towards Serekunda Market, where they were told that there was a hostile group at Dipakunda. As he spoke, stones were being thrown and he was asked to leave. He drove the car of the Chief of Armed Forces and returned to PIU, where he and others found the windscreen of his car, which had been parked there, smashed, and the mobile traffic office and the PIU headquarters burnt. He was stranded there and had no car to go to Banjul. He was later joined there by the Chief of Armed Forces to Banjul for a meeting. He denied hearing or witnessing any fire. On 11th April, the witness said he was in his office as usual. He said the PIU men had been overpowered by the students and that he had not personally seen any student with a gun on that day. He was not in charge of the GPF operationally. He said he had given instructions for PIU to be deployed with riot gear, and as far as he knew, that was what happened. He agreed that some people died from gunshot wounds, according to the autopsy reports. He did not agree that those who died were killed by people with guns. He said they had done everything to calm down the students and reason with them, but it appeared that there was a more powerful force behind them. He denied that the Secretary of State for Local Government had appealed to him to keep the PIU away from the scene. He had only been asked to provide a vehicle, which he did. He denied having any command. He had only instructed security forces to stop chasing students. He had only given instructions from his end and not commands. He denied hearing gunshots at GTTI or Westfield. He said the IGP can give order for guns to be fired and he can delegate. He remembered meeting OC of the station, ASP Modu Sise, who said they were overpowered by the students who burnt the station. He found the National Guard in the ground assisting apart from the PIU. This is a summary of the testimony you provided to the Commission of Inquiry. As you notice, there are some discrepancies with your testimony here before the commission. I can highlight some of them, but I'm sure you know them. One thing for certain is, as they came out of PIU, they saw some students running. You said when you came out of PIU, it was deserted. You did not see anything. You mentioned hearing one tear gas being fired but not seeing the smoke. Your testimony before the commission states that tear gas smoke was everywhere. I asked you about whether you spoke to the student leaders, and here you said, during your testimony to the commission, you said that you asked Omar Juf and others to come down from a vehicle in order to calm the students. Later on, you also you said here that you walked all the way from PIU to Westfield to Dipakunda, back to Westfield and the PIU. And here it states that you drove the car of the Chief of Armed Forces and returned to PIU, where you found your car smashed and other property burned. It also says that you later joined the Chief of Armed Forces for a meeting. It goes on. Similarly, you made other statements that are different from the statement you've made here to the commission. For example, you also said that you had been asked to provide a vehicle, which you did. Similarly, you denied here meeting ASP Modusise at the PIU headquarters, or in fact seeing him at any point during the day. But in your statement to the commission, you said that you met him at the PIU headquarters, and in fact, he's the one who gave you information to the effect that they were overpowered by students. These are some examples of the discrepancies between the testimony that you provided to the Commission of Inquiry in 2000 and your testimony here before the commission. What do you have to say to that?
Yes, Ma, thank you. And as I told you, this report, I'm seeing it for the first time today. And contrary to the practice you have in this TRRC, the Commission of Inquiry never provided a draft to me to read and confirm that what is written or typed is exactly what I said in that commission.
And similarly, as I explained to you yesterday, indeed our practice is if you provide a witness statement to the commission, we take that statement, we give it to you so that you have an opportunity to read it, so that you can confirm what is in there, and then you can sign it, or at least we know you've had a chance to review the content.
That's right. Exactly.
However, when you testify before the commission, as you're doing today, we will not come back to you to ask you to verify exactly what you said, because there is a record of what you're saying to the commission.
That's right.
I assume this commission, for people who testified before it, had a way of record keeping, and this is a summary of your testimony before them.
But they never provided, prior to writing this report, any copy so that I can confirm yes or no that what I said in that commission reflects exactly what happened.
Are you essentially saying that the statements that are captured in the Commission of Inquiry's report are not the statements that you made during your testimony?
As far as I can recall, some of them are correct, but the others, to be quite honest, I don't remember saying it.
And the ones that you would say are incorrect are the ones that contradict your testimony here before the commission?
Those are the ones exactly, as I said, I don't remember, but Mamadou Cissé will testify to that effect, talking to Mamadou Cissé or see him on the ground. I did not even also remember providing a vehicle for a meeting with the Vice President, nor was I informed of such a meeting with the Vice President.
And in fact, beyond that, you don't even recall having seen tear gas smoke everywhere?
as I said, when I heard the tear gas noise, it was far from where I was. So it's only the noise I heard. Why smoke? I was not aware. I did not see. That's as far as I can recollect.
But it is quite convenient for you to say now that the report or what was captured is inaccurate. As far as we are concerned, this is an official report, and we go on the basis that the information contained herein is accurate because it is an official record of the proceedings. It seems very convenient for you to now say that you did not get to see a copy of the report, and so the contents of the report are inaccurate as far as some of your statements are concerned. It just seems very convenient at this point.
No, because I'm just saying what happened actually. Contrary to what the practice is in this TRRC, personally, I did not receive any copy before the publication of this report. That's why I said it.
Well, let me move on to the findings of the commission, which I also read to you yesterday. And now I'm referring to page 27 of Exhibit 0083. And the paragraph reads as follows. Although there is no evidence showing that the Secretary of State for Interior gave the order for the security forces to shoot at students, we find in his testimony that he did not hear any firing could not be true. From the evidence before the commission, he must have heard firing as he was around the PIU area and Westfield and testified that he met up with the Chief of Armed Forces. He met the Armed Forces Chief of Staff, who confirmed meeting him at the PIU when he came from Dipakunda, and that when he heard the firing from PIU, he, the Armed Forces Chief of Staff, met both the DIGP and the Secretary of State for the Interior, and later joined him to Banjul with an escort who was a PIU officer armed with an AK-47 rifle. The Secretary of State for the Interior confirmed joining the Chief of Armed Forces to Banjul as well. Why then did the Secretary of State for Interior deny hearing firing or seeing any armed security officer? That's what the commission had to say. And at the end, in terms of their recommendations, I will also read that out because of time constraints. I'm referring to page 45. In terms of the recommendations, paragraph 4 of page 45 reads as follows. Top police authorities on the ground at Canifing on the 10th April 2000 should accept responsibility for the tragedy that happened, namely, Secretary of State for the Interior, Ousman Badjie, Deputy Inspector General of Police, Sankum Badjie, Commissioner of Operations, Babukar Sow, Assistant Superintendent of Police, Momodou Cisse. What do you have to say to that conclusion and the recommendation?
I think that conclusion, I read it then in the press that I should accept responsibility. And my position was, I see no reason why I should accept responsibility for not, because I have not given any order for any police officer to shoot any student.
And in fact, the factors that the commission referred to prior to concluding that you and others should accept responsibility was in relation to the police conduct. So one thing they mentioned is the police should make it a point of duty to speed up all investigations and to be transparent in all sensitive cases in order to convince the nation that justice is being done. Point 2, the police should be well equipped with the appropriate and up-to-date gears, including water cannons, to deal with all types of civil unrest. 3, all security agencies should be more flexible, courteous, and tactful in their dealings with the general public. And their final conclusion relates to people such as yourself who were in positions of authority who could have ensured that this occurred. There are, of course, other findings in relation to direct perpetrators and some other individuals. But that is the conclusion of the Commission.
Yes, Deputy Lead Counsel. You see, this Commission now, with the evidence the TRRC has today, or since people started testifying before this Commission on the April 10-11, has somehow exonerated the main person who gave the order. So how credible is this report, therefore?
What do you mean by that? Who was the main
Because
person?
we received the testimony of the former ADC to the president, to the former president, who said he heard the conversation or the former protocol of the vice president call while they were in Cuba and said the vice president wanted to talk to the president about the situation on the ground on April 10. And that the telephone was handed over to the president, and he can hear him saying, handle these people anyhow you can.
But the Commission of Inquiry's report does not put responsibility at your feet for giving any order.
Thank you
In
very
fact,
much.
they stated that they did not believe that you gave the order.
Thank you.
But the responsibility is about your portfolio as Minister of Interior and the steps that you should have taken and did not take.
Yes, I accept that. There are some steps I should have taken, I have not taken them. And I'm glad that the Commission said they have no evidence of me ordering the students shooting. That I'm glad, I'm happy.
But you do understand that responsibility goes beyond merely giving an order. Yes, the person who gives an order is responsible, but there are other people who are also responsible based on the roles that they either held or the actions that they took or did not take if they had an obligation to take them, as in your case.
That's correct, Deputy Lead Counsel.
I'll just move on to a final matter, and it concerns the testimony that you provided earlier about your presence, about the fact that you were not present at various meetings in relation to April 10 and 11 after the incident. So I'm referring to official meetings that were conducted at the time. So I will provide some information from a particular witness statement. I will not read out the name of the witness at this point, but I will provide, as a matter of fairness, I will provide the name to you in a paper that the usher will bring after I've read some of the extracts. And do not repeat that name. It's out of fairness to you, so you know where the information comes from. But the person has not testified yet, and so for that reason, that's how I will proceed. A few extracts from the statement. One extract talks about briefings going to a member of the cabinet, and it states, the Minister of Interior and other ministers and other security heads came to my office on an ad hoc basis to brief me on the situation. I did eventually, and I'm picking out various extracts that refer to Minister of Interior. I did eventually have a meeting with the Minister of Education, Minister of Interior, and the service chiefs on subsequent days, the second or third day. From what you've told us, you don't recall any of these meetings. In terms of speeches that were drafted, this information here states that such speeches speeches related to April 10 and 11 would have been drafted by various security services and collated by the Office of the President, the Ministry of Interior, and the Minister of Defense. As far as you know, was your ministry involved in drafting any other statements apart from the one that you mentioned?
I don't remember my ministry involved in drafting any statement other than the press release we issued.
Another extract refers to a meeting of various ministers, well, of various individuals, including yourself, service chiefs, and it was the day after the April 10 and 11, or the day after that. So in the first few days of April. And according to the information here, it states that the president spoke to individuals who were present in that room, meaning the President Yahya Jammeh, including yourself, as well as Baboucarr Jatta, and other service chiefs who were present. But you've denied having any conversation with the president at the time, even via telephone.
I don't remember talking to the president on phone.
Yeah. When the president returned from his trip, there was a meeting of the cabinet, and he was briefed about the situation in the country. At that meeting, it was a meeting of the cabinet, presumably you were present. You deny having been involved in any cabinet meeting to brief the president about April 10 and 11.
Is there any list of attendance? Because cabinet meetings, normally the ministers who attend, there is a list for that.
Indeed, but I'm trying to get from you specifically whether you now recall this specific instance of briefing the president at a cabinet meeting.
Because I said it's been a long time. I cannot remember some of those things. But if this is now provided and we have the list, then I will say yes. Now I remember.
But as we discussed earlier during your testimony, this was a very unique situation, and the questions were specifically about whether you participated in meetings of this kind, which you would have then recalled, and you said no.
No, to be quite honest, cabinet discussion on this thing, I don't remember it, to be quite honest. But if
because you've said no.
No, now that I'm saying is the case.
Sorry, you're saying now because I've told you that someone else has said that there were meetings about a cabinet, now you've decided that that was the case and you were present at those meetings.
Yes.
That's quite a jump, because I haven't even told you who made these statements. But you're easily agreeing with the fact after having denied it earlier in your testimony.
No, I did not deny. I say I cannot remember. I did not deny.
I asked you specifically, and I said that would have been a unique situation. Surely you would have remembered that at the time. After that, you said, no, you do not recall any such meetings.
My apologies then.
But now that I've told you that someone, you don't even know who made the statement, you're willing to accept that you were at such meetings.
My apologies.
Can you tell us the content of those meetings then?
The content, unless I have the minutes, I cannot remember the content, to be quite honest. And
do you recall any of
people take the floor by turn. As I said, I could not give any substantial briefing because myself, I did not receive any briefing from the Inspector General of Police.
But of course, from the video recording of your interview with GRTS, we saw that you were able to give detailed briefings to the public about the events of that day. So we cannot just assume that because you've said you didn't receive briefings, you were not similarly able to do that when it came to cabinet meetings or your communications with either the president, vice president, or any other member of government.
That's correct.
Okay. I will conclude it there. Thank you very much for answering my questions, Mr. Badjie. I have reached the end, so I will defer to the chairman, and then he will provide you with an opportunity to make a final statement.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I have concluded.
Left out or not participating in any meetings at all, briefing meetings on the 10th and the 11th of April has left me in a state of complete bewilderment that you as Interior Minister not participating in any what would have been perhaps a crisis management group at the top echelon, that nothing has happened at that moment. If that was true, why didn't you resign?
Chairman, I tender my sincere apologies for that, and I think it was a lapse. Thank you. That's all I can say.
You mean you would have resigned?
No. I would. No, I'm not saying I would have resigned. I just said the statement I made that I did not participate in those meetings was a mistake on my side, and I apologize for that.
Thank you. Commissioners, if you have any questions. Commissioner Carr, you have the floor.
Thank you. You made mention that during your some of the meetings you had with the students, you mentioned the issue of the Public Order Act. I want to know how that reflects with constitutional provisions that allow for free assembly.
Yes, Commissioner, the Public Order Act, there is a Supreme Court ruling, I think 2017 or 2016, which says the Public Order Act is in accordance with the Constitution, though there is no contradiction. So that is a jurisprudence now.
My question was in reference to events that later happened on April 10th. With the way, with the injuries and the deaths, would you say the situation was well handled?
Sorry, can you come again?
My question was in reference to that the Public Order Act, the constitutional provisions, and the results of the events on April 10th. Would you say the public officials, including yourself, handled that situation well?
No, I'm not getting you right. What exactly? Can you come out again?
Okay, let me go to the other questions. You can just leave that question. Did you do anything as Minister of Interior to monitor events that were happening in other parts of the country, particularly in Birkamoba?
The monitoring, we can only rely on the Gambia Police Force, the Inspector General of Police, which has representation all over.
I mean you personally as as Interior Minister responsible for internal security.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. The only monitoring mechanism I can have is from the Inspector General of Police.
Did you receive any information on that?
On the Brikamo, the provincial incidences, there was no report I received from the police.
Did you also do anything personally to get information as to the situation in that?
Whether I did anything personally?
Yes.
No, I did not do anything personally to get information.
You also accept responsibility for that?
Of course. I said it, and I told the deputy lead counsel here that I accept responsibility for not requesting from the Inspector General of Police to provide me with those information.
Final question is, this you can include in your closing remarks. What lesson would you advise public officials to learn from those events? Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Imam Yala. Have the floor, please.
Mr. Badjie.
Yeah.
It seems you and the armed forces of the Gambia totally misunderstood the students of the Gambia. The letter I have read this morning from the report, the commission, The students were simply requesting for a permission to march, not to demonstrate. But every officer I have heard speak here in this hall has been talking about a demonstration, a demonstration, a demonstration. Don't you think that by misrepresenting the students' intentions led to the massacre of innocent citizens unnecessarily? Can you please dilate?
I don't think we misrepresented the students, because when they applied for a demonstration.
Not the letter I have read this morning, it's right there.
Personally, I've never seen that letter. It was maybe addressed to the Inspector General of Police, but I've never seen it. Yeah, I've never seen it, Imam.
The next question is, I heard you use this expression, once bitten, twice shy. I'm surprised you use that in the context of what has happened to you and to other senior officials of this country. You were arrested, jailed, beaten probably, or some other torture inflicted on you. But every time Yaya Jammeh laid his hand out to accept you back, you are all willing always to jump back and join him. Why do you think Gambians were behaving like this, including you?
Commissioner Imam, I think as a Gambian, I was not working for President Yaya Jammeh. Because when I was appointed and when I was taking my oath, the oath of allegiance is, I bear true allegiance to the Republic of the Gambia and not to a particular person. Yes, he was the president. He's the one who identified me among 109 million or 200 Gambians, 2 million Gambians, to appoint me to that position. But that does not mean I was entirely on his service and be ready to do whatever he instructed me to do. That's not me. And I'm grateful for the trust and confidence he had in me by appointing me to those positions as minister, as ambassador as well. Whatever I achieved during my tenure as minister and ambassador is now benefiting the Gambians.
Do you think if you people had resigned from your positions, you would have created the Yaya Jammeh that we had for that period?
We did not create Yaya Jammeh. Yaya Jammeh was born from his two parents. And he came to power through a coup d'etat, which personally, as a security personnel, I don't support coup d'etats. I'm allergic to coup d'etats. And then after that coup d'etat, they went through a transition. He went through elections. Gambian elected him. So all of us who voted for Yaya Jammeh are somehow responsible for the person we created. Because at that time, we thought he was the best person and the best choice for us. And how many times, how many elections has he gone through and he was always re-elected by Gambians?
Commissioner Jones, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chairman. Mr. Badjie, I'm trying to make sense of or to understand the decisions that led to some of your actions as well as your inactions in certain circumstances. You did make mention that in the aftermath of the April 10th and 11th, you refused or you did not probe further questions or to inquire what really happened because of what had happened to you with your victimization being detained for 640 days. However, when we look at the video, the interview that you granted to Jane Abanyang, you seem to be the person in charge. You had so much authority when you spoke. I just want to understand what changed from what happened before and then when you decided to give the interview. What changed?
No, because me, to be quite honest, I did not follow up the Inspector General of Police on some of these issues for the reasons I gave you.
for someone who was scared to speak, you spoke very authoritatively in the interview. So what changed?
Yes, I've already admitted that it was a mistake, and I deeply regret it.
Okay. My second question is regarding prison conditions. You seemed very upset when you talked about your detention for 640 days. As the Minister of Interior, following your release or when you were finally appointed, what initiatives did you take towards reforming prison conditions, if any?
Yes, the prisons is a very important institutions in the Ministry of Interior, because I went through it as a detainee. After my release and my appointment as a Minister of Interior, I visited the prisons. And my first point of call was at the remand wing, and I went straight to my cell. And I spoke to those people detained there. I was the one who initiated sponge mattresses for the remand wing. I did not stop at that. I then spoke to the then Chief Justice while I was chairing the Prisons Council that I want the court to move to Mile 2 and examine the files of those detained because the remand wing was overcrowded, which they did. Justice Yahya was a member of the Prisons Council. We all visited the remand wing with the judges and the magistrates who are members of the Prisons Council. We entered the maximum security wing and visited those convicts, common law prisoners as well. Some of them were reluctant, but I insisted, because you are the people sending people to jail, you have to come and see what the conditions are. So before you pass any judgment, you'll think twice. That was done during my time. Before 1994, there was no juvenile wing. Children of the Gambia were detained at the prisons with the elders, the adults. That contradicts international norm. I negotiated with the British Embassy through defeat, and they built the Joshua Juvenile Wing. These, among many others, in trying to improve the food of the inmates in Mile 2, I did. I'm not taking credit for it, but I thank God for at least allowing me to achieve such things. They are not mean at all.
Thank you. No further questions.
Thank you. Imam C, you have the floor.
Ousman, thank you. And the demonstration ended, and some of them lose their life. Did you call their parents?
Bi ñaxtu bi passé be xalé yi faatu si
When the demonstration ended and some children lose their life, I cannot say that
the hospital
call their parents. The second thing is that we are not working for Yaya, you are working for yourself. Because anything that he doesn't like it, you will not get into it. Anything that is bad and he is bad and you don't like it, you will not reveal it and you will not say nothing about it. You are working for only for Yaya Jammeh.
Olof Njaay dafa ne
what the Wolof said,
wax feeñ te nit soo buggee mucc nga xam ki ngay liggéeyal lim doon ak nim doon soo yeboo ne muut nga rëcc.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, I made a promise to Mr. Badjie that I would provide the name of the witness whose statement I was reading from, and I always do my best to keep my promises. So I would ask the usher to provide him with the name so that he can see it, just as I promised, but that's it. And lastly, just to say that Mr. Badjie had indicated that he would like to make his final statement in Wolof. So just a reminder, because that's something he had requested.
I see him smiling. I hope that helps him with his concluding remarks. Mr. Badjie, if you have concluding remarks to make, please go ahead and do it.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, commissioners.
He's saying that commissioners,
deputy lead counsel, all the councils and commission members, staff.
And all the councillors and commissioners.
Deputy lead counsel.
Deputy lead counsel.
Maneko suma kaddu pour wax ak askan bi.
My statement to the nation.
Ci wolof la ko buga wax.
I want to say it in Wolof.
Waaye nag maa ngi jéggalu de parce que Joola buy làkk wolof la.
Well, I'm appealing to you. I'm a Jola who is going to talk in Wolof.
Mun na am du leer.
It might not be very clear.
Waaye dinañ jéem liñ ci mun.
But I will try what I can.
maa ngi njëkkee sumay kàddu njaale di yëkkati sumay kàddu njaale.
I'm first of all sending condolences to
waajuri xale yi faatu.
the parents of the victims, those who died.
di leen jéggalu itam.
I'm also appealing to them for forgiveness.
ci naxar beeg méttit biñ nekkee at yi yëpp.
And all these years they have been living with pain.
waaye di ñaan seen njaboot yi.
I am appealing to them, begging them.
fiñ nekk tey.
Where we are today,
yal na leen yàlla ubbil binti ajana yi kaw.
may the Almighty Allah forgive them and grant them Jannatul Firdaus.
seen waajur yi.
Their parents,
yàlla yokk leen xoli muñ.
may Allah give them hearts to bear.
yokk seen am-am.
May Allah provide them and add them and give them the best of luck.
seen mën-mën.
And what they can do,
may leen jàmm ak xéwal.
may Allah give them peace.
ñi gaañu.
Those who died.
am nañ laag non ñi gaañu.
Those who are wounded.
am nañ laago bu métti.
They have got something very painful.
ñu ngi koy sooxee ben tey.
And still some are still suffering with those pain.
loolu yépp.
All that.
li ko waral.
What caused it?
ak kandeer yi fi yi jàmmaarloog ñoom la.
Is what happened to them.
ñu ngi jéggalu si ñooñu itam.
I'm still begging for forgiveness.
di leen masawu coono biñ nekkee at yi yépp.
And all the suffering they've been living with, I am appealing to them for forgiveness.
te ñu xam ne su doon suñu coobare.
Let them know that if it has been our intention,
lii du leen dal.
this will not happen to them.
waaye nag.
But
xew na.
it has happened.
ñu ngi koy réccu.
And we regret it.
di baalu ñëpp àq nag.
And we are appealing for forgiveness from all of them.
gannaaw loolu.
After that,
yéen a ngi ne seen bàkku bi mooy lii bum fi amati ba abadan.
the slogan is never again.
waaye pour mu ñàkk am.
For us not to have it again.
dañ dee wax léegi-lee si nasaraan.
Sometimes they say this in the English language.
ne our motherland.
Our motherland.
Which means ñu ngi tollale suñ réew.
Which means we are putting our nation.
ak suñ waajur.
And our parents.
loolu lu mat a bàyyi xel la.
That is something that we should be mindful of.
rawatina si ndaw yi.
Much more the youth.
parce que ñu ne ñoom ñooy magi ëllëg.
Because they are the elders of tomorrow.
gis nga si Gambian bu nekk.
In every Gambian.
toogee.
If the time comes.
gisee réew mi comme sa waajur.
You see the nation as your parent.
di nga ko jox cër bi nga jox sa waajur.
You will respect the nation as you respected your parents.
te doo musa def dara luy lor sa réew.
And you will never commit anything that will bring suffering into your country.
réew mi.
This country.
lañ am.
This is what we have.
fii lañ juddoo.
We were born here.
fii lañ màggee.
We grew up here.
fii lañ teddee.
We live here.
lépp lu ñu am.
Whatever we have.
réew mee ñu ko jox.
We got it from this nation.
te fonk sa réew.
To love your country is part of your religious obligation.
April 10, 11,
April 10, 11, what happened? According to how I see it, what caused it to happen is lack of
respect
to the laws of the country. And seeing yourself, saying that what I want is what should have happened. But I will not mix it up with the laws of the country. They said, elders said this. Tell me what kind of youth you have in your country. I will tell you tomorrow what kind of nation you will have. Let's be mindful of. Let's have respect.
Institutions in
Let's have respect for the institutions we have in this country. Let's have respect for those who are in the government. Let's have respect. Have respect for ourselves and our neighbors too. Well, it has been said that the Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, they once asked him, they asked him, the Prophet, you, what is a Muslim and who is a Muslim? He said a Muslim is a person whom you know, God created him or her, he has taken care from what you say and what you do. Like a person, don't put your neighbor in trouble by words or by deed. This is what the Prophet revealed. After that, if we had respect for the law,
Public Order Act
the Public Order Act said, if you want to demonstrate, you have to write.
Permit pour Inspector General of Police joxla.
Apply for a permit from the Inspector General.
So apply.
If you apply,
dina la jox.
He will give it to you. If he didn't give you, he will explain the reasons why he refused to give you the When we met with the guys at Yundum, if they had applied,
the IGB
and IG informed them about it, he will have given it to them. And that time he will provide guides for them and escort for them. But that didn't happen. And what happened? Well, we are regretting it now. And those who should have, our guards, our army and the police, our security forces,
Sen mag lañ, seni dom lañ, seni papa lañ, seni yaay lañ.
They are your fathers, your uncles, your elder brothers, your mothers.
Réew mi la ñuy liggéeyal.
They are working for this nation.
Dañ tànn pour nekk police mbaa army mbaa fire service mbaa prison.
They have been selected to be police, army, prison officers and fire service men.
Dama daan faral di wax ne police.
I used to say that police
civilian bu sol uniform la.
Is a civilian who is in uniform.
Te kenn si police officers yi ki testify fii.
And one of the police officers who testified here
wax na ne
said
bañ attaqué Kotu police.
When they attacked the Kotu police station,
gaay daw laxu.
Some ran away and hid themselves.
Dafa dem laxatu musimi uniform am bi.
He or she went and took off his or her uniform.
Musol t-shirt civil génn si seen biir.
And wore a t-shirt, a civilian t-shirt, and came out.
Xale yi moomale ko seen boppa foog ne si ñoom la bokk.
The students added him or her into their group.
So buñ gisee police wala army wala ñeneen ni comme suñuy noon.
When they look at the police or army and take them as enemies,
dañ fi nekk pour kaaraange réew mi.
They are here for the security of the nation.
te kaaraange gi nag.
And for the security of the nation.
mënut a doon pour police rek wala army.
It cannot just be the police or the army.
loolu yitte ku nekk la war a nekk.
That should be the interest of everybody.
réew mi yëpp ñoo bokk kaaraange.
We are all joining into one
parce que
security.
su jàmm amee.
Because if there is peace in the
jàmm la ñun ñëpp.
it is peace for all of us.
su safaan amee musiba naaru lay.
If trouble comes in the country.
du baax kenn si ñun.
It will not be good for anybody.
duñ si mun a sax jaamu yàlla.
And we cannot even perform our religious obligations.
lenn lu ma seetlu itam.
One thing I've also realized.
mu ngi yoot di ñëw.
It's coming, creeping in.
ñu ne lii bum fi amati abadan never.
They said never again.
waaye ñu ngi dégg ñetti at jot na.
And we've been hearing 3 years has arrived.
te ñoom ñu ngi naan December fu ñu jaar ñu yëngatu.
And they are saying that whatever happens December, they will come out. Because
président bi ñetti at la waxoon askan bi.
Because the president said 3 years, that's what he told the nation.
dafa war a wàcca.
He should come down.
waaye ndax loolu méngoo na ak suñ sarti réew mi constitution bi.
But has that anything to do with our constitution?
kaddu gi mooy déet.
The word is no.
Constitution bi juróomi at la ñu wax.
The constitution is 5 years.
President bi guy di dem election 1997 constitution bi déet bi mu fa def loolu lañ sàmm.
The constitution, when they were going to the vote, is showing the 5-year term.
bañ ko tànnee itam.
And when he was elected,
bañ koy waatloo sa Ndakaaru si suñ embassy bi.
when he was being sworn in Dakar at the Gambian embassy,
date bi constitution bi wax.
the date that the constitution stipulated, that's what we instituted.
When
he came back to the country, he went to the stadium. He caught the Al-Quran in his hand.
Chief Justice Watloko.
Chief Justice swore him in.
Constitution in 1997.
It was the 1997 Constitution which was in existence, and that same Constitution is what is existing up to date. That's why I said what happened on April 10, 11 is because of non-respect between the nation and the law. Let's try to institute and respect the laws of the country.
When we respect the 1997 Constitution,
when we respect the 1997 Constitution, he swore. We will not have any other incident like that.
April 10, 11.
April 10, 11.
Because
the Constitution has clearly stated whatever it is. This is what I wanted to say. Because the country, what does that mean? I don't understand that, Wolof.
You cannot separate or divide a country.
You cannot separate or divide a country. A country is a place where we should all come together.
We should be dialoguing.
We should be dialoguing. That's why we had that
National Assembly.
That's why we had the National Assembly in Banjul. Where you know all our districts and wards, they have elected people who are supposed to be at the National Assembly. Whatever is the nation's interest, that's where they discuss it. They call the ministers and ask them what is their stance and what efforts and trials are they doing for the upcountry. Our former president,
the
late
Dawda
Kairaba Jawara, that day when they were saying things about him at the National Assembly,
Honorable O.J. Jallo
Honorable O.J. Jallo in his testimony, he said when they were forming their party,
the Protectorate People's Party,
those who were seeking leadership,
ñu dem tànn President Jawara ne moom lañ bugg a def njiit.
They decided to choose President Jawara and said that's the man they want to lead them.
Lim leen njëkk a wax mooy.
What he first told them was,
pour ma d'accord pour nekk njiit.
for me to agree to be your leader.
si suñ nguur gi.
in our government,
xeeti réew mi yëpp dañ ci war a gis seen bopp.
all nationals or all tribes of the countries should see themselves in that.
What wisdom.
All parties should be, all members should be part of that party.
nañ leen bàyyi xaajatloo ci xeet.
Let's stop tribalism.
daf ñuy lor.
It only brings trouble.
si suratul al-Hujurat.
Suratul al-Hujurat, that's
aya fukk ak ñett.
The 13th verse.
suñ borom wax nañu ne.
God, Allah told us that
yéen mbindaafoo nii.
you people, the
maa leen
creation,
bindee ci ñaari nit góor ak jigéen.
I created you in two persons.
ma def leen into nations.
I made you to live in countries.
ak ay xeet.
in different tribes.
pour ngeen di yëgoo.
so that you can interact.
ngeen di waxtaan.
You can dialogue.
ngeen di diisoo.
You can talk to each other.
lii la ñu Yàlla santa ci Alxuraan.
This is what God told us in the Quran.
te foog naa ñun Gambia yëpp ci lii lañ war a sax.
And I think for Gambia here, this is what we should do.
parce que réeroo amul.
Because lack of understanding is not there.
ñàkk a wax a am.
The problem is lack of dialogue.
Wolof ne.
The Wolof said,
waxtaan.
Discussing.
waaye balaa ngay waxtaaj. waxtaan.
Before you do that discussion,
da ngeen de talk round the table.
You sit down and together.
ku nekk wax.
Each one will speak.
li ku nekk di wax yéen a ngi koy taaj ci table bi.
Whatever somebody says, you put it on the table.
su ngeen demee ba table bi yëpp wax.
If everybody speaks,
ci looloo ngeen wax.
whatever you've discussed there,
ngeen di tànn.
then you look and
li
choose
njëriñ askan bi.
what is beneficent to the nation.
ñu jëfoo ko.
You take that.
li si safaan.
What is not good.
ñu gas suul.
You bury that.
looloo indi baatu waxtaan.
That's what brought dialogue.
kon comme président bi nee na pare na pour waxtaan si 3 years jot na bile.
As far as the president said he's ready to discuss about the 3 years.
Perhaps we need to conclude because Mr. Badjie, you are going a bit more into political issues.
I'm almost done.
So please,
yes.
Please proceed. Thank you.
suñu wareef mooy.
What is?
nañ leen ñu waxtaan.
Let's discuss.
réeroo amul.
There is no lack of understanding.
ñàkk a wax am.
Lack of discussion, that's what's.
maa ngi jégalu si kàddu yi fi jëp.
Well, I am appealing for the words I said here.
di baalu àq ñëpp.
And I'm appealing for everybody for forgiveness.
di leen baal àq.
Please forgive me.
réew maa ngoog.
That's the nation.
yéen a ngoog.
Here you are.
ñu ngi nii.
Here we are.
yal na Yàlla sàmm suñ réew.
May Allah protect our nation.
saxal fi suñ jàmm.
Bring peace into this nation. And clean our hearts.
juboo am jërëgeen.
So that we can understand each other and dialogue and be one nation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chairman, for those concluding remarks.
Thank you for
We will take a lunch break and come back sharp 3 o'clock because of it should be slightly less than an hour. We have a witness that's ready to start at 3 o'clock. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you all very much.